Have you ever returned home after a year away to find strangers living like kings on the exact spot where your father taught you to ride a bike? What if the Hoa Karen who spent years harassing you over community standards secretly forged documents to declare your land abandoned so she could build her dream mansions? And how satisfying would it be watching that same entitled woman choke on her words as she writes you a fat rent check every month while calling you sir? I had been gone for exactly 1 year. A full orbit of the earth that felt both endless and like yesterday. 12 months on a fat overseas contract, the kind that finally let me breathe, fix up the old family place, revive Dad's land and maybe even dream bigger. Before I left Oakwood Estates, everything was locked down tight. My 5-acre homestead sat like a quiet green jewel on the edge of our tidy suburban bubble, the last big lot that hadn't been carved up yet. Dad had protected it, Mom had loved it, and I'd grown up running barefoot through the wild patches that the HOA already hated. It was more than dirt. It was memory, inheritance, home. I did everything right. Reinforced the entire fence line. Paid every HOA fee and property tax a full year up front. Sent certified letters and emails to the board, including the president herself, explaining I'd be unreachable except by email. County records, everything notarized and stamped. The land was mine. Or so I thought. When my plane touched down and I rolled down Maple Ridge Road in my old truck, the air smelled like fresh-cut grass and money. But something felt wrong. The road had been freshly paved, smooth blacktop where there used to be cracked asphalt. White picket fences marched along both sides like soldiers. Manicured lawns, new mailboxes shaped like little mansions, fancy garden lanterns glowing even in daylight. I slowed, checked the GPS. Nope, still my road. But the quiet stretch lined with wild blackberries and my old fence was gone. It looked like the entrance to some exclusive country club. My heart started hammering. I rounded the last bend and slammed the brakes so hard the seatbelt bit into my chest. My 5 acres weren't mine anymore. 3 enormous white mansions stood tall and proud across the whole property. Wraparound balconies, imported stone driveways, solar-paneled roofs gleaming like they cost more than my entire life. Spiral-trimmed hedges shaped like dollar signs, decorative pillars, the works. A shiny metal security gate blocked the entrance I used to drive through every day. And right in front, a gleaming sign. Oakwood Estates Phase 2 Private Community. Residents and authorized guests only. My jaw dropped. My hands shook on the wheel. They had stolen my land, bulldozed my fence, cut down Dad's old oak trees, and built a multi-million-dollar gated playground while I was 12,000 miles away. But I didn't get long to stare. Click, click, click of heels on pavement. A blonde woman in a crisp navy blazer strode toward my truck like she owned the universe and the mortgage on it. Clipboard in one hand, sunglasses perched on her perfectly highlighted head even though we were under the porch shade. Cynthia Whitaker, HOA president, self-appointed queen of Oakwood Estates. The woman who once fined me $50 for a non-approved American flag on my porch. She tapped my window with the authority of a drill sergeant. I rolled it down slowly. Yes. You can't park here, she snapped, voice syrupy sweet with venom underneath. This is a private community. Residents only. I blinked, forcing calm. Ma'am, this is my property. She let out that laugh, the one Karen's perfect, the kind that says you're cute for thinking you matter. Sweetie, this land sat unclaimed for over a year. The board exercised our bylaws on neglected parcels. We purchased development rights and turned it into high-value community housing. Unless you're a contractor here to finish the trim work, I need you to leave immediately. Unclaimed. Purchased. Development rights. It took everything not to laugh in her face or scream. Cynthia, I said, using her first name just to watch her eye twitch. I paid every HOA fee in advance. I have the paperwork. I've owned this since my father passed. I was gone 1 year, that's it. The land was never abandoned. Her smile vanished. Face hardened into that fake polite mask they teach at HOA meetings. Well, that's not what our official records show, she replied coldly, tapping her clipboard like it was the Bible. And if you don't leave right now, I'll call security and the sheriff, whichever arrives first to escort you off private property. She folded her arms, victorious, like she'd already won the war. I rolled the window up, reversed calmly, and drove away. She stood there smirking like the queen of the castle. But inside me something shifted. Not rage, not panic, but that cold, quiet fire Dad used to call patient revenge. I didn't yell. I didn't argue. I simply left. Because I already knew 3 things with crystal clarity. 1. They had zero legal right to touch my land. 2. Someone had forged documents and manipulated bylaws to make this happen. 3. Every brick, every mansion, every gate, and every spiral hedge now legally belonged to me. And I was about to make the entire board pay for every single square inch. The next morning I walked into the county records office with a folder thick enough to stop a bullet. Every receipt, land map, notarized letter, HOA payment proof, even photos of my fence from the day I left. The clerk's eyes widened like he'd seen a ghost. "This parcel is fully registered private property," he said, flipping pages. "Nobody, not even the HOA, has authority to build a doghouse here without your signature." I asked the obvious question. "Then why are there 3 mansions sitting on it like it's their private resort?" He swallowed, checked something on his computer, came back pale. The HOA president, Cynthia Whitaker, submitted emergency abandonment papers claiming the lot was vacant and neglected. They fast-tracked permits, demolished structures, and started selling units. "Everything built legally sits on your asset." My lawyer, an old-school pit bull named Marcus, nearly laughed when I dropped the file on his desk. "They built luxury homes on land they don't own? That means every stick, every pipe, every solar panel is your property now. They owe you back rent, damages, and probably punitive fees for the forgery." That afternoon we marched into the HOA office. The moment Cynthia saw me, her face stiffened like she'd bitten a lemon. "You again," she barked, trying to keep that polished tone. Marcus slapped the thick binder on her desk. "This land belongs to my client. Everything you built is sitting directly on his property. The signatures you filed? Forged. We can go criminal or we can settle civilly." Her jaw actually dropped. "That's impossible. We followed every bylaw to the letter." Marcus smiled the way sharks smile. "Bylaws you wrote yourself, apparently. We're willing to be reasonable. Option 1. You pay my client monthly rent for the 3 mansions you illegally constructed. Or option 2. You demolish everything. Concrete foundations, plumbing, wiring, those ridiculous spiral hedges carved from my client's family trees, and restore the land to its original condition at your expense." Silence hit the room like a slap. Board members shifted in their seats. Cynthia's perfect manicure tapped nervously on the desk. By evening they were begging for a negotiation meeting. The boardroom was packed. Stiff suits, lawyers whispering frantically, Cynthia looking like she'd aged 10 years overnight. She still tried the act. "We thought it was abandoned. We were protecting property values for the whole community." I leaned forward. "You thought? Or you hoped? Because I have every email, every receipt, and every neighbor who told me you spent the last year calling me a deadbeat who fled the country to dodge HOA rules. Nice slander campaign, by the way." Marcus stacked the evidence like cards in a poker game. Tax receipts, land registry reports, county approvals, before and after photos. Each page was another nail. "You preached community harmony while bulldozing a man's legacy," he said calmly. "You built 3 multi-million-dollar homes on land you never owned. 2 options." The room leaned in. "Demolish everything at your cost or lease the land from my client indefinitely." Cynthia swallowed hard. "How much?" Marcus slid the paper across. The number made every face drain white. "Per house," he confirmed. A full minute of suffocating silence. Then Cynthia exhaled shakily, voice cracking for the first time. "We accept." Just like that, the mansions that once belonged to her empire now sat legally on my land. The same board that tried to erase me had no choice but to sign a long-term rental agreement that paid me more per month than my overseas contract ever did. Poetic, brutal, delicious. Last week I pulled up to the gate again. Cynthia was there in her navy blazer, clipboard gone, replaced by a forced smile that looked physically painful. "Good morning, landlord," she said through gritted teeth, voice dripping with the fake politeness she once weaponized against me. I nodded politely, rolled past the 3 mansions that now paid my bills, and parked where my old oak tree used to stand. Inside, it felt better than any revenge fantasy. I never lifted a hammer. Never spent a dime. Never raised my voice. They stole my land for 1 year, slandered me across every neighborhood chat, and turned my family legacy into their luxury cash cow. Now the queen of rules for thee writes me rent checks and calls me sir while her precious spiral hedges, made from my dad's trees, wave in the wind I own. The lesson? Never underestimate quiet patience and ironclad paperwork when an HOA Karen thinks she's above the law. They preach community while stealing your slice of it, but the universe has receipts, and sometimes the biggest flex is making your bully pay rent on the throne she built on your grave. Stay documented, stay silent until you strike, and watch the entitled squirm. That's the real American dream.